Hey everybody, what up? All right, so in this video, I want to talk about some of my favorite YouTubers and basically a little bit about my programming journey and essentially why I think it's all doomed. In a sense, so I have a few like conflicting, I think, goals with my YouTube at this point. I used to actually care like about numbers and stuff, and I think a lot of stats and statistics have come out showing that like social media is not good for children. The amount of time and attention craving and all that stuff that is being spent on like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that is definitely not healthy for us. And I was watching Tech Lead's video tonight about why I quit YouTube as a millionaire, and you know he's a good troll. Like he also likes to use like some heavy sarcasm, so you can never really tell if Tech Lead is being real or not. And I could sometimes get the sense that he is real. Like he'll do some really like heartfelt, real stuff, like it's real, and then other times it's like, are you serious? But that said, like some of my favorite YouTubers, like New Boston, he was around when I first started. Traversy Media, Brad Traversy, like he's actually said it before. He's mentioned me a few times. Like he's the kind of guy I would have went out and probably had a drink with. I don't drink anymore, but I used to. Like it would be. I don't think he does either, actually. But maybe we'll go out and get a coffee one day. But we're not near each other. Josh, I've always been a fan of Josh. Like he sort of rose real quick and then sort of settled off. Eli, the computer guy, he's been around since when I first got started. And when I first got started in 2013, around that time, like Eli was on fire. Like he had 900,000 subs, on his way to 1 million. Like the biggest at the time was like really the New Boston, and Eli was kind of going in a separate direction and just simply like traveling around the country and talking into a mic, and seemed to be working out real well for him. But once he reached like 950,000, Eli started like really like, changing up the way he did his content, and his channel sort of died off and it really never came back. So he surpassed 1 million a long time ago, and his channel is just barely hanging on at this point. So that seems to be like the common theme though, because it's not like, somebody like New Boston, right? 2.61 million subscribers. And you look at some of his videos here, and he's only getting 5,400 views on a video he did 11 days ago. So of all the people that wanted Bucky to come back to YouTube, and it's like, why do you leave YouTube? Why did he leave? He left because there was greener pastures. There was other things to do. Why did he come back? I don't know. Maybe it's because of the Bitcoin craze and all that. I think initially he came back thinking that he'd be able to, pump out, use it as a marketing arm for his, his personal Bitcoin ventures and stuff, which is what he was working on for many years. And as far as I can tell, that's probably not working out all that well for him. I mean, I don't know, but I sort of have done the same thing. So what does my channel have in common with all these people? I think it's massively depressive, the entire, the situation of YouTube. If I looked at it like, oh my God, I have to rely on YouTube as like an income for the rest of my life. Like, no way. Like life is, it's short, right? But it's also very long when it comes to like saving for retirement and benefits and running your own company and having to pay IRS and like managing your own schedule, coming up with creative content all the time. That stuff is not easy. It's unhealthy for YouTubers as well, because I've been actually in that position where my channel peaked at 787,000 views in a month, and now it's getting like 100,000 views a month. And that's all good, really. I deleted hundreds of videos. I used to have like 800 videos, I think, and now I only have like 200 and something up. And part of that was just simply me having like, reaching the age of 40, and I'm like, man, I don't want some of this stuff out there that I've done in the past. And if I were to die tomorrow, like Tech Lead is very morbid in his latest video, but like, you get hit by a truck tomorrow, and it's true. And if that were to happen, like some of my videos out there, I don't really want them out there. And even a lot that are still up there, like it's like, I don't really, that's not going to define who I am as Chris Hawks. I don't want that to define me. It's one of the cool things I can point to and be like, hey, I got 23 million views on YouTube in the tech field, and that's pretty cool. And that's probably where things will peak out. Now, one of the reasons why I still do YouTube, though, is I now only do it because I want to do it, like, and I'm enjoying doing it, and I don't have any sponsors anymore. Linode worked with me for a long time. They just recently got purchased, and I no longer wanted to do any sort of schedule. I used to have this thing where I'd only sign with sponsors for a monthly minimum. So my monthly minimum topped at $1,000. So it would be $1,000 for 4 videos for 4 pre-rolls. That may seem like a lot, but to be honest, it was a big pain in the ass to have to deal with that, where it's like, oh, I got to figure out what do they want me to say. And, it's got to get, I got to spend a bunch of time back and forth negotiating on the price. And talking to this person and that person. It just wasn't worth it. I worked with some of the biggest companies too, like MongoDB, Wix.com, like TechSmith, ActiveState, Linode. Linode just got bought for almost $1 billion. That is a company that I actually loved working for. So Dev Mountain and Linode, we had a business connection, business type relationship where it was like, okay, I'm going to do my thing and you guys are going to pay me to do my thing, and I'm going to make sure I try to pay that back to you. So a lot of people kind of saw my videos and was like, oh, it's, always Linode, it's always Dev Mountain. Well, it's because, it's business and time is money and all that. And I'd rather deal with a reliable sponsor that brings in monthly recurring revenue versus having to try to chase down $1,000 with Wix or something like that. So that's the way that works. That said, how do the YouTubers make their other money? They make their money because they sell their courses, right? So I was selling on Udemy, and the long story short is that Udemy, it never really worked out for me. Like, I don't have the time to make, unfortunately, the tutorials that I want to make in the fashion that I want to make it, and release it on the schedules that I want to release it on, and deal with the user interface that I want to deal with and all that stuff. So long story short, I created my own platform, and CodeHawk.com, when I launched this 2 years ago, it's actually now sold in 40 countries. So it's by far my most profitable venture based on like profit margins and the amount of time it took me to actually develop it. Now, there's always this nagging feeling of like, man, if I could just peak my YouTube channel at 787,000 views and pump my website and create the tutorials I want to create, that would be great. I'd be able to make money, right? But even if I did all that, I still make less than what I make as a senior engineer somewhere else. So why is it worth all that hassle and effort? And it's really not. So what I found is that, this YouTube thing is not all that healthy for me, and it's probably not healthy for a lot of people. And when I look at some of these numbers and certain people, it just seems depressing, right? Like, I look at Eli and it looks like he doesn't know what he's going to do in his life. He's actually mentioned the same thing. I have some business venture, this or that, and it reminds me of like family members that I know that left the workforce and then tried to strike it out on their own. And like, you better hope that if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to disappear from the grid, basically, when it comes to where have I worked, what are my corporate experiences and all that, you're taking a humongous risk. Because when you leave the workforce, I mean, you could be Bucky Roberts even, and there's probably going to be a lot of people who are like, nah, dude, I'll pass on you. But Bucky, he's not a good example though, because I think he did end up going the time away. He ended up going into the corporate field, I believe he did, so he's not the best example. But my point being is that when you leave the workforce, it can become difficult to get back in, and I've seen that personally with family members that I know that left to start their own businesses, and then 5 years later it didn't work out, and now you're removed from the market that you're supposed to be an expert in for 5 years, and you've been doing chief everything officer versus like a senior engineer. So it's very so Tech Lead is an example of that, right? Tech Lead's now doing his own ventures everywhere. He now moved to Vegas. He's sleeping on a mattress on the floor, talking about minimalism. But I also know that he has a son, and he just seems depressed to me. So I'm not trying to speak for him, but I see depression with that. And like, obviously he's had like some issues that he shared and everything, which I don't want to rehash, but it's like, all that stuff, it worries the crap out of me. It really does. So it's like, why do I even do YouTube? It's because I still enjoy doing it. I started as a hobby. I started it to teach myself, and then I started teaching other people, and that's where I had my success. And then eventually I started getting these little, hits of like dopamine of like, oh yeah, I released this clickbait ass video of top 10 this, or why this is better than that, or whatever, or why you should do this, or why you should listen to me. It's like all this stupid stuff. And I get this little dopamine hit of like, oh, I get all these people that are liking it and making a little bit of money and all this. And the fact of the matter is, though, it's really not, and I'm only speaking for myself, but I capitalized it on affiliates, sponsors, YouTube revenue, and even some donations and stuff like that. And then obviously selling my own product on my website. And all that said, I would never quit my day job. This isn't something that is ever going to be more than a hobby for me, and I think I've come to grips with that. So people can, do whatever they want on this platform, but I guess what I find is like, what do I have in common with these people besides a whole lot less views and subscribers? I look at my thumbnails and I'm like, these things are atrocious. Like I never really spent enough time on thumbnails. In fact, when I didn't do thumbnails at all, my channel actually did better. So all these things, it's like, oh, you know, make a dumb face in your YouTube thumbnail, make great thumbnails, use good keywords. It's like, no, there's like billions of hours being uploaded to YouTube every week or something like that. And most likely you're not going to be found, even if you had good content. And then if you do have good content, nothing is stopping somebody else. The barrier to entry is so low. Nothing's stopping somebody else from being able to just regurgitate and repeat whatever they're reading, whatever they're viewing on from somebody else, so they can sound like experts and stuff like that. Very easy to do. I'm not talking about with any of these YouTubers here, though. These YouTubers are mentioned because they're actually my favorite, and they're some of the ones that I kind of came up with at the same time, and especially like Brad Traversy. So he's had quite a bit of success with his 1.81 million subscribers now. And like, I look at it though, and I'm like, man, I probably would be able to make some good money. I know he's making good money doing this, but will it last? I don't know, Brad. Yeah, you tell me. I don't know, man. You always got to be ready to adapt all the time. When I look at 1.81 million views and I look at the amount of views per video here, this would be concerning to me. Now this one's got 500,000, but that's the best one 2 months ago, but everything else got like 50. So I know what YouTubers make in this tech field when it comes to ads, and like Google does not pay very well in ads. So you supplement that, like I mentioned before, with sponsors, affiliates, donations, and selling your courses third party on something like Udemy, who then tries to rip you off. Like one time, like I've tried on Udemy, and then the best success I've ever seen for my content on Udemy was somebody who pirated my shit, and they sold like, it had a price tag of $199, 12,000 students. It's like 2.4 million on paper or something like that. Now I know Udemy didn't make anything like that, but either way, it's like, it was a free course and it got pirated and all that. And the most successful thing on Udemy is pirated content of mine. So that sort of pisses me off a little bit, even to this day. It's like, Udemy could have given me like, a couple thousand on that deal. But whatever, I don't have time for that. If you guys want to learn actually about that sort of thing, I did look into it a little bit, but even if somebody rips off your pirated content, you should probably have, if you're in the United States, your information registered with the U.S. Copyright Office, because then attorneys that handle your case, if they end up filing suit against the copyright infringer, they can get their damages or their attorney fees paid. So a lot of attorneys aren't going to take anything pro bono without you paying a bunch of money up front. But if it is registered with the U.S. Copyright Office, then they're guaranteed to get, based on statutory damages, like their attorney fees back, so like they can still make money off of suing even frivolous lawsuits and all that. So the point with YouTubers though is like, who's got time to register all these different videos with the Copyright Office? I mean, I really don't. All right, so yeah, and then this article here, it's like even YouTube stars with 1.4 million monthly viewers earn less than $17,000 a year, research shows. I would say this is probably bogus. We always hear about the most successful YouTubers out there that are making like 10 million a year or whatever. Some 7-year-old kid makes 10 million a year on YouTube, and everybody gets jealous or whatever, and they think it's so easy to do. And I think it's more luck than anything. And then there's obviously production value that goes into it, and some YouTubers really do make it big. But for the most part, just like with like mobile apps or websites that we're all trying to chase and all this stuff, it's like the top like 10, top 20, they're dominating all the headlines. They're dominating. They're collecting like 85% of all the revenue and everything, and everybody else is fighting over the scraps. That's basically the gist of that. So with the 23 million views that I've had on YouTube, like that's a lot of ads that have been displayed on my videos. The 23 million views, and it's not that much money. It really isn't. So we're talking about a couple 100,000 maybe that I've made on YouTube altogether or whatever over 8 years, which is pretty good. If I would have invested that entire amount of money and not bought it or spent it on vacations or whatever I did, it's like that would have worked out pretty well. But that is definitely not something that I'd ever want to rely on as like some sort of like retirement or like, oh yeah, I'll be able to do this for the rest of my life. YouTubers fall out of fashion, and I think Eli is definitely an example of that. Probably my channel as well. Is like, you can have some success for a while, and it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to carry it forward at all, regardless of your thumbnails or really your production value or even like what you have to say. So Yeah, a lot of these YouTubers, I think in general, like it's a very addictive nature to it, and they seem, some of them seem quite depressed, and I think I was as well. Like for a while there, when I was like not liking anything I put out. I went through a period there, obviously, where I was like putting out videos and then like deleting them the next day, and like I'm not really sure what that was. I think that was definitely mostly burnout, and I needed to switch jobs at the time too. Like I was with the same company for far too long, and things are so much better after I switched jobs. So like the grass is sometimes very much greener, and so is the money actually when you leave sometimes. So um, the money is also greener, I think, outside of YouTube as well. But so why would I continue to do YouTube? And I think I've already mentioned this. Is like I like CodeHawk. I like this platform I built. I run this thing for less than $60 a month on a virtual private server. I still have plenty of resources. There's still so much I want to do with it. Eventually, like there's so much knowledge that I have in my head. Like, and I might be sounding like an egotistical prick or whatever, but like I got knowledge in my head of courses that I'll have eventually on things that other YouTubers aren't doing because they simply don't know. They don't work in the corporate field. They don't know. They're not very, they just wouldn't. And like, you could do some like intro beginner level stuff and that's good. And I've been doing a lot of that too, because it's the easiest thing to do, right? It's the path of least resistance. You can get something out very quick. People always ask, no, I want in depth. I want to know what else, I need like in-depth AWS and all this stuff. It's like, well, yeah, I could do that eventually, but I'm going to have to charge a lot more for it. And I need more time. And like the people that have time don't really have time to be doing this. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm up against the wall on that a little bit where like, also at this stage of my life, I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to push myself to do something that I don't feel like doing. Life is short in the sense that I don't know how much time I have, and I don't want to be like spending it all on an outdated, in a course that's going to be outdated in 6 months and people are going to be complaining about it anyway or whatever. Or people will blame you because they don't know how to learn it or whatever. There's a lot of different things, and that's one of the reasons why YouTubers, it's a stressful endeavor as well. Is like you're always looking at the analytics. You're always trying to think of like, why didn't my video do as well as I thought I was going to do? What's going on with my numbers? Why am I not getting enough subscribers? Why like do I have so many subscribers and not enough views? Like where do those people go? Are they not clicking the bell? And then I would imagine if I did it full time, like I would stress so hard because I would be thinking, how the hell am I going to retire on this? Like, how am I going to pay for my health insurance? And like, I don't know. Is this, even if it's working out for a little while, is it going to be something like Eli where like you're good for 5 or 6 years and then all of a sudden you fall off the face of the map? So for all those reasons, I think, I would never want to be a professional YouTuber, and seeing the new Boston come back and get these little amounts of views when he was like considered to be a legend on YouTube, and it just shows you how valuable this industry can be and how quickly it can all fall apart. And then that said, though, Josh Fluke, though, if there's one channel I recommend, like he can be a little bit negative. I understand. I guess maybe because I'm negative too. Like that can rub certain some people the wrong way, but like. And I don't condone everything he says about corporate. Like, I mean, you want to take a lot of that with a grain of salt because you could end up shooting yourself in the foot and knocking yourself out of the corporate game. And the corporate game is truly how you end up having a good life, in my opinion, where you can raise kids and maybe have a boat one day and take vacations and have real estate or hundreds of thousands or millions in your 401k. I mean, you have to work or get lucky or be born with some wealth or something. That's really what I've seen. So you could, but yeah, when it comes to his channel though, man, it is hilarious, some of this stuff. And if you want to check out a recommendation, like he does these shorts that they're like, to me, like that is very good level production. I feel like, and I've said it on his channel, like you should be working in like Hollywood or some media company, marketing media or whatever. Like he has like, I think professional level production to some of his shorts and all that. Real camera work and all that stuff. So anyway, you should check out this When People on LinkedIn Get Fired video. It's like one of my favorite shorts by him, and the clown suit is hilarious. But hopefully, all these YouTubers though, you have some sort of long-term plan. Don't let me get you down. And I don't speak for any of them, so I really don't. Just speaking from my own perspective on what this YouTube journey has been like, and really, like, I guess what my plans are going forward. And that is just simply, I have no plan on YouTube anyway. But if you're learning how to code, check out my website, codehawk.com, though, because I am going to be posting more stuff there.